Hey, welcome back to Jamieson's Repair Shop. Back on the Thunderbird still. It's the convertible Thunderbird, that is. Was doing the seat pedestal. I've got that installed. I'm still working kind of in between, finishing up the plug welding and all that kind of jazz. So like I said in my last video, we'll be moving on to the rear driver's side torque box. Now, I really want to just open this box up to make sure everything's okay in there. It looks fairly decent, but we won't know till we get in there. And I'll show you a little bit of how I moved that seat pedestal in place as well. I have a little bit of footage of that. I just want to show you how I am going to move this seat pedestal back in place. It's very close to where it needs to be. It just needs a little nudge. And I had remembered I actually own one of these. So that's what I'm using. I'm sure this will do the trick. That's what it's designed for. So let's get her set up, see what we can do with this. That works fine, just fine. So I have it in line this way, forward and back. It's a little bit back further. I want to release it. I figure it's going to move a tiny bit. But right now I'm going to plug weld those holes on each side. I'm leaving the tunnel for now because I have to go underneath and expand it back out. It is a shade high right here. I think this one's been bent some, so it's hard to tell. But I mean, this is minimal amount. With that much work being done to the car, I'm only out a 1/16 of an inch. I'll be happy. All right, I'll get that locked down right there, and on the other side. And then I'm going to try to do something with that tunnel. It'll be darn close, that's for sure. There we are. Get all the seam sealer out. A lot of seam sealer in these cars. If you're new to these old Thunderbirds, you're gonna have to come up with a way to get rid of the seam sealer. What I use for the most part is one of these little air files, or air saws rather. This is a cheap one, so it stalls, it doesn't have a lot of power. But what it does fit is one of these, I don't know where the name of it is now, what the name of it is rather. I forget now what it is, but it's, oh there it is right there I think. Yeah, hard to see it. Anyway, what this is a W, I think it's WKC or a G or something. Anyway, I'll see if I can find it where I bought it, put it in the description. But this is a windshield remover tool. It'll cut, it's for cutting the urethane glues. I find it works really well, especially on seam sealer that's already sort of loose. On the gummy stuff, like down in here, it takes quite a bit more work. But on the loose stuff that's already chipping away, it just takes it right off, no problem whatsoever. If I had a little bit stronger air saw, it probably would just mow right through it. I'll see if I can find out what this is, put it in, like I said, in the description. I know they came as a 2-pack, 2 different sizes. Worked really well. I've had this for years, and I've used it quite a lot. And it is my favorite go-to for seam sealer. So anyway, what I'm doing here, getting that aside. So what I'm trying to say is if you're new to this Thunderbird stuff, one of this era, you're gonna have to run into a lot of seam sealer because I think Ford held mostly their car together with seam sealer and spot welds. But anyway, let's get some light on here. What I've been doing to get this, this is the torque box cover right here. Right there, this whole section, and it wraps down around here. So on the other side, I didn't need to, and I won't have to here either. All I had to do, I don't want to take the whole cover off. I'll just slit it with the zip cut, and I'll re-weld it back in place when the time comes. But this has to come off, this brace. And then all the spot welds have to be drilled out in this cover. And underneath that, you can see already the patterns happening here, all the intricate structure that's in there. It's all spot welded together. So inside there is the torque box. Now on these convertibles, I don't know if it's the same on the hard tops, This piece right here, well, on the hard tops, this piece doesn't go all the way up to there. I think it's only about half that height. But the convertibles they go up high and it goes all the way down, and I'm thinking the hard tops as well, but the metal goes right between the inner and outer structure of this piece here. So there's a seam, a pinch weld right here, but when you get back into this part, right into here, it actually, this is just welded together, the two pieces, but when it gets back here, there's three pieces. There's this piece here, goes right down underneath, right through to the bottom pinch weld, right down in the bottom, adds support. So it goes right through the inner and outer structure between the two. So that's another piece of the whole puzzle that has to be done. So when I rebuild this piece, which most of it is there on this side, the other side was mostly gone, but I'll have to make sure I make it long enough to go right down through, so it has to be another 4 inches longer, roughly. But anyway, spot welds have to come out of here. This is just welded on in a couple places with MIG from the factory. Right there's welded on. There's spot welds right there that have to come out. And this was welded on. So this can be just chopped off, because this will have to be rebuilt, this flange. So I'll probably have to go back up to about here, at least, maybe even higher, and bring it down and out. It's just to put that flange back on. It is part of the structure, so it has to go there. So what you saw me doing with the wire wheel is trying to find all these spot welds. And some of these holes here, that's not rust. Those are punched out holes where they MIG weld it at the factory, or they're supposed to have. You'll see a spot right there where it's been MIG'd. This has been tacked on with MIG. So they did a lot of actual welding in assembly too, right? So like not just spot welding, they did a lot of MIG welding too. I find that in quite a few places on this car so far. Anyway, let's get this top off. I see it's already rusted over there. So I'm gonna have to fix this top back up. This one's in relatively good shape compared to the other side. The other side needed a lot of work. But if I can keep this form without having to build a new one, if all I have to do is put a piece in over here, I'm okay with that. And then it comes over, and it ends right here. So this is a piece of the outer or inner structure right here. It goes down, then it comes over about this far, and it goes down again. You'll see it when we get in there. Let's get some spot welds out. So with this one, I'm going to use my 1/8 bit for pilot hole, and I don't want to drill right through. I don't want to drill right through everything here. So what I'll be using is a 3/8 bit, and sometimes maybe a 1/2 inch bit to open up get rid of the old spot welds, because I don't want a whole bunch of big holes right on through. I don't mind it in the cover because I have to use them to re-put back on. All right, let's get at her. Okay, there we go. Got this little cover off. It goes right here. This is just a piece of rectangular tin. It had some factory punched holes in it to guide it, so it, in manufacturing, could guide it into this hole better. I'll just make a new one of those. That's pretty thin anyway. I think that's only about 20 gauge to start with. It's just a cover for this hole here. Got the bracket off. It'll need some repairs like the other side did as well. But the other side, I think I had to do a whole section of it. But overall, it's not bad. I'll have to put this piece back on here. It goes down to about here. You can see where it was all welded on, MIG welded on, so I'll have to grind all that off. Yeah, it's not a bad piece. It's it's in pretty good shape. This flange is easy to fix. That one's welded right back onto it. This one here I can fix up, no problem. put a little on there, and then a little flange down here. Save those important pieces. What do we got in here now? Inside the torque box, a lot of dirt. There's a hole here. No, these all go to different chambers. There's all these little chambers inside of the torque box. All right, a lot of filings on my magnet, won't stick anymore. All right, so that's her. So who knows what a fellow will find in there? Probably just more dirt. But this one's already showing to be in a lot better shape than the other side. The other side was all rusted out. The inner structure was rusted out and everything. So anyway, now I just have to get this spot weld out of this. I need to get my bigger drill bit, charge up my batteries. These aren't taking it out. These are quite big spot welds. They're probably about that big. They've got to be, you can see them there. They were quite large, so they wanted to put a lot of heat in that for a reason. I remember correctly, this was tough to get off because there's spots you can't see, and they're in here in these pitted areas. But anyway, it's just a piece of steel, and if we have to make a new one, we'll make a new one. And like I said, I'm going to cut this along here rather than taking it off underneath. Well, this is all good shape, so there's no point in taking this off. So I'll just cut this right along there, and then I can weld that back on. That's 16 gauge, this stuff here, or as close to 16 gauge as I can measure. Yeah, I've been asked a few times about the gauge of steel that I use in this car when we're doing the repairs. So that torque box cover is 16 gauge. All the torque box bottoms were 16 gauge. These rails, the inner structure there, those are 16 gauge. But everything else I do on here is 19, or it's 19 gauge, but I can only get 18 gauge here. I'm not going to go 20 because it's too thin. So I use 18 gauge for everything, even though the car was built with 19 gauge. I got something on my face there. I need a haircut too. Man, hair grows fast. Anyhow, back onto the car, and let's get that cover off, see what's in there. She's coming along pretty good. Actually, that torque box is looking better all the time. Let's have a peek inside here. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's far better than the other side was. Well, we won't know until we get it all apart. And we'll have to clean it all out. But anyway, I got a little bit more, I got a spot weld. These are the ones that you can't hardly see because it was pitted, but there's a weld there, I can feel it. Right around there. And then there's a whole series of welds along that side, which I have to get a longer bit and drill out. She's coming though. She's looking pretty good. Well, we're down to just this row of spot welds straight along here. I've snipped that off with the zip cut. This is pretty much all loose. So I'm going to see if I might have to go with a die grinder to get in some of these. I'll see if I can get on them with my drill. If I can't, I'll just take the die grinder and I'll just whip around. I might just go ahead and do that. Well, that was a big struggle. I used my little acorn-shaped die grinder to sink some pilot holes. That's a 16 gauge, so it takes quite a bit. And then, of course, as you saw, I went by with a couple different drill sizes. I used a pry bar and my air chisel. But it's off. So let's have a look. I didn't look in there yet. Let's take a look inside, see what's in there. See how good a shape this is in. All right, a little bit of light on here. There she is. Not too bad though. Not too bad. Not compared to what the other side was like. Get some rust. Scale rust. The other side was completely gone over here, and I may find holes in this yet, but that's easy to put a bottom piece on these things. There's the drain hole. Well, there's a plug that's supposed to go in there, and that feels thin around there, so I may have to replace that like I did on the other side. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you see it's rusted back, so some of this is going to have to be, yeah, rusted there. So I'll have to go underneath and replace a section of that, which isn't bad. That's just a piece of flat 16 gauge with a hole in it. Over here looks pretty good. This is the nut plate for the spring shackles, just so anybody knows, for the relief springs. So they come through from this side. So the leaf springs on this car are tied right into the torque box too, on these cars. So I'm gonna get a vacuum cleaner and we'll vacuum this all out. What's this look like up here? I think this was pretty solid up here, yeah. Let's see what we got over here. There's that piece of the inner structure I was talking about. That's all in really nice shape, but I still have to take the spot welds out all along to up to here, right about there, in order to get that sheet metal to go down between the two. That's a bit of a struggle because that stuff is on tight there, but you can pry it open. This is in far better shape than the other side was, this back piece. I'm going to check, there's a hole right there, so I'll probably have to put a section of that in, so I may as well get rid of all that pitting. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the inside of this box. This here, I think, I'm going to go through here and have a peek. Yeah, I remember correctly, this wasn't bad. I'll vacuum out what I can in there. There's mud and stuff in those, in through there. It's I'm not going to pull any more of that torque box apart, so I'm going to leave this cap on and I'll blow this out and vacuum it at the same time. This is just a little chamber that goes right in here, and I can check from underneath if the bottom's gone on it, which I don't think it is. This is pretty good straight shape down in there. But yeah, so I got to straighten out this flange a bit where I bent it by prying. Other than that, she's pretty good. This here, in case anybody's wondering, this is a section that goes down. It's just an insert, piece of metal with a flange on it, and it starts there, goes down to about, I think, right about somewhere around here on the when the plate cover's on. Actually, right here you can see it. It's right there, yeah. So that insert, that filler piece, it's just a piece of well, it would have been 19 gauge, and then you can see where they spot welded it on, and they didn't even, like, it wasn't even spot welded to the as far as I could tell, to the inner fender. Like, it just came around and then it was seam sealed. So those are pretty easy to make, and it went all the way over to there, filled that section in. Now I have on the hardtop, they're still in place and in good shape, so I'm going to do a print off the hardtop one to make those. That's a small job. Won't be doing that for a long time yet. Anyway, there we are. I'll get this cleaned out. We'll have a closer look. So there we go. Got her all cleaned out. She looks good. Got some rust, like I showed you, up in there and there. There's a rust hole over there. So there's some repairs that need to be done. It's pretty good in here. This will all be, again, rust treated and red oxide before I put the cover back on. The cover needs a little bit of repairs, but overall I'll just pound most of it back out. So that's that. So the idea of all this, I know it seems like a lot to go into these torque boxes and do this, but this is the strength of your car. And I've said it before, if the torque box is rusted out and it's not providing the structural strength that's required, especially on a convertible, really everything else you do is a waste of time. So this is an important, to me anyway, my opinion of it is an important piece. So now I got that all cleaned out. Got a little mess here to clean up. Lots of dirt in these old cars. But if you don't go into those places, you'll never get rid of that dirt. So we got in here more cleaning will be done in here. So this is part of it too. Let me get the light. All right, see? I went with my wire brush on the other side. If anybody that's been with me for a while following, and I'll do the same here. So I'm gonna run I got a wire brush, a chimney brush that's on a piece of pipe, and I'll run that back and forth and clean it all out. Now on the other side, I removed the whole rocker panel. And I may do the same here. These rockers, just anybody that's kind of new to this, these rocker panels only go back, and you can see it right there. This one's still intact. So the rockers come back to here. You'll see this little piece. Let me see if I can pick a little bit of that away. Yeah, there. So this is part of the rocker panel, for this piece right here. And then this piece here comes over top, and this is a leaded joint here. And there's an indent that's factory put in just so they could spot weld. And then they filled it with lead. So this was a complete seam where you wouldn't see it. But these are two separate pieces. This quarter panel section and the rocker is two separate pieces. And it's nice that this is still here. George from Michigan sent me pictures of his for the other side. I haven't put the rocker back on the other side yet, but I will. But now I do know I have a factory one there as well. So it's nice to know what they look like. So I am probably going to pull that rocker off, but I won't. It's not a hard job to pull the rocker panels off these. There's a lot of spot welds to break, but we'll see. I'm going to think about it. If I can fix this one, because this one's in good shape, where the other side, hold on. I've got a rusty spot there, maybe. I can fix that in place. The other side had had a dent in it and was quite rusty, but this one's not too bad. This is gone, obviously. All right, well, I'm going to continue vacuuming this out, and then I'm going to clean up this mess. Well, that's it, everyone, for this video. I'm going to call it quits here. There's quite a bit of work to be done on that torque box, but I will take you along for the ride just the same. I won't exclude you. So I'm going to get the mess cleaned up, and we'll see you in the next one. And thanks a lot, everyone.